Okay, so after you have watched the first video for this project, I want to show you some advanced things that you can be doing to your project. So, one thing is I'm going to go ahead and just select on this apple, and you can see, oh, I have two of them. So, let's see if I turn that one off. Okay, so here's this apple. You can see I've turned it on and off. And I'm going to go ahead and put a filter on it. So these are, this is really fun and something that you could do with your project. I would suggest, since you are trying to set a mood with your color, you might think, well, I have a lot of color in my background, so maybe I want to make everything in my project more minimal color. So a great way to do that would be to use some of these sketch things. Sketch filters. One of my favorite ones is halftone, and you can change that halftone to the size of the halftone, and the tone is actually the pixels you see there. They turn into circles. And then you can also change the contrast, okay? So if you liked that, you could just say okay, and then that changes your image there. I would try to stay away from using lots of different filters because you want to create unity within your artwork. Even though you're going to have rhythm, you still want to have that unity. So try not to do a bunch of different filters. That's what we call a highway to mediocrity. We don't want to just do the same, or I mean a bunch of different ones, because that will create way too much variety. All right, another thing that you can do is go to image, to this little circle on the bottom of your layers palette. They're called layer adjustments. And you could change, let's say you wanted to change it to black and white. So you can change that to black and white. Notice it made everything black and white that's underneath it. So if you don't want to do that, you can right click or control click to create a clipping mask, and that will make it so that it's only black and white on that one layer. So see how I've changed that to black and white. Okay, so let's say I don't want to do either of those things, so I'm going to step backwards. Okay, so I'm back to the beginning here. Alright, the next thing that you can play around with is adding a drop shadow or an outer glow or one of these things. Bevel and emboss, this is kind of a fun one. So I'm going to click on that. I have bevel and emboss, you can see it's checked here. And I can make this look like it's embossed, like it's sticking out of the paper. That's what embossed means. If I bevel it, it means it's going into the paper. So you see how that changed, and it looks like it's going into the paper, like it's kind of stamped. The other thing we could do is add a drop shadow. So that makes it look like it's totally lifted up from the paper. And again, we can see that shadow. It looks like it's sitting up from the paper. You can see that shadow just moving a little bit. I could spread the shadow out. I could change the size of the shadow. And you see that that shadow is changing size underneath the apple. And so this is a great way to make something look like it's sticking out or sticking above the rest of the work. So I can turn off my bevel and emboss, and then I get just that nice shadow underneath the apple there. Although I'm going to turn it off because I actually don't want that on mine. But it's fun to play around with filters. It's fun to play around with the effects, drop shadows, and things like that. It's also really fun to play around with these layer adjustments, especially maybe changing some things to black and white. The one thing is you don't want to get carried away and do one of everything. because that will be far too much variety. You won't get any unity. You have a lot of variety as it is with the different shapes, so now when you're using filters and you're using effects and you're using these layer adjustments, you want to make sure that you're doing it in a way that's creating unity throughout your piece. So you're trying to bring it back together. Okay. Again, let me emphasize this is your final project in this class. This is the one where you get to show me that you understand a lot of skills in Photoshop, skills like cutting and pasting and painting and layers and all the things that we've been learning. So it's really important that you wow me with this project, because if for some reason one of your projects was lost or wasn't turned in, I'll be able to see that you understand those skills. So it's really, really important that you wow me with this project. Next week we will be starting, and even on Friday, some of you will be starting to work on your final portfolio, where you're going to be discussing each of your projects and recording a video on it, and something that you can share with your family. So it's really important that this is done this week, and all your projects are done this week. So look at the board. We have a list, and I'm just going to go ahead and put this on photo booth so you can actually see the list. We have a list of projects that you are supposed to do for this class, and this is going to be backwards when you see it in photo booth, but at least you'll be able to see where it is. And it says track your progress at the top, right here behind me, and you need to have all of these projects done. And if you look back at the very, very beginning, if you never finished your stop motion, you know, maybe finish this project early so that we can get that published. If you never finished your animal or your superhero or your line drawing, your color, your pattern, your texture, those were all pop art. If you didn't finish your mandala or your Kanto self-portrait or your tessellation project, that should be done this week too. So if you get done with this early, that's what you're working on. Advanced students might be updating their website. So there's a lot to do, and like I said, we have only 2 weeks left of the semester, and the last week we're going to be working on our final portfolio. So keep that in mind. Okay, good luck.